Hello everybody, it's Tarun. Welcome to your 23rd tutorial in the CSS for presentation course. In this tutorial I'll start with delays. Okay, so we'll start with setting a delay. First of all, I'll tell you the property of transition delay and I'll tell you the values first. Okay, so just a second for that. Let me just show you the values. So you can see here the values are time only and the default value is 0 second, and it is applied to all the elements which are before and after pseudo elements. The transition delay property, as you might guess, delays the start of the animation by a specific amount of time. Okay, and in the following example which I'm going to show you, the background color transition will start 0.2 seconds after the pointer moves over the link. So here if I add transition delay, okay, which is I'm giving the value 0.2 second. Okay, so let's save it and see in the browser. So you can see here that it took 0.2 second to change it into the red color, and if you were especially distractedly, you would make a button disappear, which you can do with the opacity 0, and after a person has held their finger or pointer down on it for 2 seconds, okay, as I'll show you in the following example, okay, that will teach them to be indecisive. Of course, transition delay has useful and less applications. Okay, so if I change the value to 2 seconds here and I add opacity equals to 0, so let's say okay, now let's see what happens. Okay, you can see that let me just refresh it. It is blue now. If I take the cursor over here, it disappears. Okay, and now it appears red. So I want to note that I have been using the non-prefix properties throughout my examples to make them easier to follow. But remember that you must include vendor prefixes for all browsers if you use transitions in your pages. Always include the non-prefixed version last for forward compatibility with supporting browsers for the future. This is how that blue to red link transitions we have been working on would have been written out in the real world. So I'll just show you that. So this is how it would have been written in the real world. Okay, it's extra work, but that's the way it is for the foreseeable future until all the old browsers fade away and the specification is stable and implemented consistently. Fortunately, there is a shortcut that helps cut down all that code. So I'll tell you that shortcut, which is the shorthand transition property. Thankfully, the authors of the CSS3 spec had the good sense to give us the shorthand transition property to combine all of these properties into one declaration. You have seen this sort of thing with the shorthand border property, etc. So here is the syntax. I'll just tell you the syntax now. So this is the syntax where you'll write the property, then duration, then timing function, and then delay. So the values for each transition properties are listed out, separated by character spaces. If you provide only one time value, it will be assumed to be duration. If you provide two time values, make sure that the duration is listed first. Using the blue to red link example, the four transition properties we have applied so far, could be combined into this one. So I'll just show you that now. Okay, you can just do it like this. So I'll just remove these properties now from here. So now let's save it and see what happens in the browser. So you can see that nothing has changed. Okay. And the full prefix version is reduced from 20 lines to 5. So how it will be reduced, I'll just show you that also. Okay, this is the new version. In the last one it was 20 lines, now it is 5 lines only. Okay, so this is definitely an improvement. So now we'll apply multiple transitions. So far we have changed only one property at a time, but it is possible to transition several properties at once. Let's go back to the awesome sauce link example, or this time in addition from changing from blue to red, I would like to change the letter spacing to increase a bit. Okay, I also want the text color to change to black, but more slowly than the other animation. Okay. So one way to do is this is to list all the values for each property separated by commas, as in this example, as I am going to show you now. Okay, like this. So the values are matched up according to their position in the list. For example, the transition on the color property, which is second on the list, has a duration of 2 seconds. Okay, and uses the ease in timing function. If one list has fewer values than the others, the browser repeats the values in the list starting over at the beginning. So in the previous example, if I had omitted the third value, which is 0.3 second, and for transition duration, the browser would have looped back to the beginning of the list and use the first value 0.3 second for letter spacing. In this case, the effect would be the same. So you can line up for the shortened property as well. The same set of style we could just saw would be written as like this. Okay, so now we'll see it how does it changes our appearance in the browser. So as you can see here, that when I hover the mouse over it, the link, it changes to red, and the text color changes to black also, and it widens. Okay, so this seems like a nice way to go, especially when you consider you have 4 vendor prefixed versions to add each transition declaration. So this was all in the CSS transitions. Now we'll move forward to the next thing, which is CSS transform. So first of all, I'll tell you the property which is transform, and I'll tell you its values now. Okay, the values are transform functions. Okay, and the default value is none, and it applies to transformable elements. So there is no sidebar here. The CSS3 transforms module gives authors a way to rotate, relocate, resize and skew HTML elements in both 2 and 3 dimensional space. This unit, however, focuses on the more straightforward 2D varieties because they have more practical uses. Transforms are supported on all major browser versions with vendor prefixes. They are not supported at all on Internet Explorer 8 and earlier, Firefox 3 and earlier, Opera 10.1 and earlier. You can apply a transform to the normal state of an element. It will appear in its transformed state when the page loads. Just be sure that the page is still usable on the browser that do not support transforms. It is common to pull out the transforms only when users interact with the element via a rollover or JavaScript event. Okay, either way, transforms are a good candidate for progressive enhancement. If an Internet Explorer 8 user sees an element straight instead of an jaunty angle, it's probably no biggie. Okay, so I'll show you a figure now where you will see what I'm trying to say. This figure shows a representation of four types of two-dimensional transforms respectively, which are rotate, translate, scale and skew. The dashed outline shows the element's original position. Okay. When an element transforms, its element box keeps its original position and influences the layout around. The same way that space is left behind by a relatively positioned element, it is as though the transformation magically picks up the pixels of the rendered element, messes around with them, and lays them back down on the top of the page. So if you move an element with transform, you are only moving a picture of it. That picture has no effect on the surrounding layout. So let's go through the transform functions one by one, starting with the rotate. So now we'll start by transforming the angles, which is rotate. If you would like an element to appear on a bit of an angle, use the rotate transform function. The value of the rotate function is an angle specified in positive or negative degrees. So I'll show you a figure now which has been rotated minus 10 degrees, or you can say 350 degrees, using the following style rule. So I'll show you the style rule now. Okay, this is the style rule. So let's use it in a browser only. Okay, so here I have transformed and rotate by minus 10 degrees. So let's save it and see what happens in our browser. So here you can see that it has been tilted by 10 degrees on counterclockwise direction. Okay, and you can notice here that the image rotates around its center point, which is the default point around which all the transformations happen. But you can change that easily with the transform origin property. So how that property works, I'll show you now. But first of all, I'll tell you the values for that property. Okay, the values are percentage, length, left, center, right, top, bottom, and the default value is 50-50%, and it is applied to transformable elements. The value for transform origin is either two keywords, length measurements or percentage values. The first value is the horizontal offset and the second value is the vertical offset. If only one value is provided, it will be used for both. If you wanted to rotate the image in the earlier example around a point at the center of its top edge, we could write it in the following way. So what could we have done? Okay, we could have transform origin, and then we could have written center top, okay, or let me just show you. Okay, we could also have written like 50% and then 0%, and we could also have written it like 150 pixel and 0. So now let's save it and see what happens now. Okay, you can see that it is now tilted around the top edge, center of the top edge. Okay, so it is easy to demonstrate the origin point with the rotate function, but keep in mind that you can set an origin point for any of the transform functions. So this was all in the rotate property, and in this tutorial. In the next tutorial I will start with the transforming the position, which is translate. So thank you guys for watching. I will see you in the next tutorial.